Fell in love with my psychiatrist, and he knew.
Fell in love with my psychiatrist perspective from someone with a diagnosed personality disorder as well as ADHD. This isn't going to be a super in-depth, comprehensive recap. It's more me taking a moment to show you what I saw from maybe a little different side of the fence than the people that you're seeing kind of recap this at that point. But if you want the really in-depth thing, go to this creator. I will tag them. Great video. So let's meet the crew. So here's the crew. I've seen them mentioned in several different comment sections. I'm number 2 on there. I just thought it was a Cancer Leo cuss, but like whatever. My BPD is in remission because I did dialectical behavioral therapy, worked my butt off, did a bunch of different other kind of therapies, and confronted what I was actually doing and the responsibilities that I had for my behavior, right? But I'm known as in remission because I no longer meet the DSM standard for that diagnosis. Between those 4 options, BPD seems to be the usual landing place because I think people just really don't understand the difference between those. There are similar characteristics and different characteristics, and between 13 and 39% of people who have BPD also have co-occurring NPD because these both can exist in the same person. Now keep in mind, I'm not telling you what to think, I'm just giving you some information to chew on while we go through the rest of this. However, I really do need to point out there's some serious differences. Also, keep in mind, this is not as simple as people are trying to make it on the internet. This is very complicated. Certain types of episodes you may present as this, like, hands down, but then when you get the help and you get through it, not going to be a thing anymore. Like when I was really deep in an episode one time, it got pretty bad, and confronting that was one of the hardest things in my life. But I had to, because I had to be responsible for my healing, you know?
I thought he was attractive, and he just would smile and not say anything because he was the king of plausible deniability. He didn't ever, like, ask me if I had a crush on him, but he didn't do anything when I told him.
So it starts with her saying she's going to this guy. It's all Zoom visits. There's one in-person visit through this entire thing. And she's telling him she has a crush on him, all of that stuff. However, in the video, she calmly and discreetly almost slips in his age. So this is the start of us being able to put together enough information to find him. Because he pretty much ignores saying, I have a crush on you over and over again, she takes this as he is feeding off of her, and he loves it with very little from her own perspective signs that actually suggest that. But if everyone loves you and you're great and you're the best ever, then how could it not be that? And keep in mind, I don't think she's lying. I think that she is telling it from the perspective that she experienced. Now, is that the perspective the rest of us would have seen? I don't know. She says that he didn't stop her because he just loved all that attention. And I have actually only heard one demographic of people say that proudly. And it's not a good one.
He also diagnosed me with not only ADHD, but other trauma, stressor-related disorders. He did not tell me about that diagnosis until I asked him a year and a half later. But what he did with that diagnosis was he used it to recreate attachment bonds and make me addicted to him.
Other trauma-related disorders. Now that caught me because she has been so open about all this information about this other person to the point that we could actually track him down, and people did because of all the information she accidentally, I do not believe it was an accident, gave to everybody, right? But she omits the name of whatever he said because yes, well, what I have, BPD, is based in that because of the things I went through as a kid. There was no safe space, so my personality did not form the way that it was supposed to. That can also happen with the other buddies we talked about at the beginning. Look up NPD if you're ever interested in that. People don't realize that that can be caused by extreme neglect in childhood also. That is not meant to make you go and attach yourself to somebody that you shouldn't, especially if they're not going through treatment and don't plan to, because a sympathetic backstory does not mean that somebody is safe. What I caught here is that she says that he tells her that he does have a problem with countertransference, which is where you transfer emotions between the provider and the patient, but later in her videos claims that she had never heard of that despite her being a life coach, which is why we don't go to life coaches. You got someone messing around in your head, they should at least know what countertransference is. But if you have an inflated sense of self and you think you know everything about ever, you're not going to think about those things and you're going to become a life coach. This comes to one of her next complaints that kind of shows she doesn't really know as much as she's saying she knows either, and maybe is kind of thinking of herself in a different way than people have seen her, or maybe she has the training to be, is that she's upset because the psych doesn't work through it with her. In a 30-minute session, which is what they had on Zoom, you cannot unpack something like that, get it repacked, and send them out the door feeling like this is safe. If I was the provider, would I have dropped her like a hot potato? Absolutely. But what you actually have to think about this, if we kind of reverse these things, as a provider, if someone was maybe in a really deep crisis, cutting tail and run could actually cause a lot of problems. So, it's just this is a perspective thing, I think. Another thing she takes as complacency to this situation is the fact that he sees her every month when she was stabilized. He should only see her every 3 months, and I bet that probably had more to do with insurance than this big other situation. In this video, there's another identifying information slip wherein she mentions how long he's been practicing. So now we know the city he practices in, his age, and how long he's been doing it. Give me 30 seconds. I could find him, and I don't think she's necessarily unaware of that fact. But I mean, a couple videos later, she mentions his actual name, refuses to take the video down. And so if this is all something that really happened and it really was the way she portrays it, fair. But if it's not, wow.
Try not to use this term of narcissist because I think it's overused in our society. However, there were so many traits that my psychiatrist had, like God complex.
What's interesting about that is sometimes when fingers are out like this, they actually need to be like this because she has been spending a lot of time on live. What is an oracle?
An oracle is someone who sees truth clearly when others are confused, speaks divine wisdom even when it's hard to hear.
So we're going to accuse of that when we are actually experiencing that. And if you go and watch the videos and stuff, a lot of people have posted things. She really enjoyed that, like a lot. So a lot of people think this is a spiral, and I don't know how much it's a spiral as it is calculated, Also, I asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT basically said, Kendra, I don't even know her. That must have been a previous version. I'm not Henry. That was a chatbot she named. Isn't the only mental health provider that she's going to go into this with. There is so much here. I'm going to have to do a part 2 because it's a lot, but I'll see you there. Hope you have a good day. Woo!